Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and I'm coming to you guys with my Week 9 battle for UBC Season number 6. And we are going up against Redikai, I think is how you pronounce his name, and he's the coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, he took over for some coach this season. I'm not 100% positive on who it is, but whoever it was, they had a pretty decent record. It might have been Andrew, now that I'm thinking about it, but again, I'm not 100% sure. But as you can see, the team he has is Umbreon, Rotom, Wash, Scizor, Victini, Florges, Gengar, Dragonite, Virizion, Excelgor, Linoon, and Piloswine. So he didn't draft it in that order. It wasn't a round 1 Umbreon. I think that there's just a transaction made, and Umbreon happens to be at the top of the page. But anyway, he has a bunch of really annoying stuff for me to deal with. Scizor is always a threat. You can't ever sleep on that. I know firsthand because I've been using it a lot in P4G, and it's really nice. Victini has the ability to clean out games with like a Scarf set with just its powerful fire coverage and all around just like general good coverage. It's hard to pivot into it because you can just run U-turn and go into something that's got a good matchup versus whatever you bring in. D-Knight with potential setup sets are very scary. Linoon with potential setup sets are very scary. And the list sort of goes on and on and on. So we're going to have to figure out the best way to combat that. I've done the best I can to do that below. So let's quickly go over the team. The first mon I knew I wanted to bring in this matchup was a Restock Entei, because this is how I've historically dealt with Victini in the past on teams that have had Entei. So yeah, this is a pretty good mon, I think, for doing that. Pretty good mixed defenses, just a really nice HP stat, just makes it able to not be a 3-hit KO'd by pretty much any physical or special set. And Rocky Helmet's there to punish U-turn abuse. Hopefully I can get up rocks and also abuse Victini that way. That's kind of my strategy for beating it. I don't have like a revenge killer for it or anything like that. So we have enough speed on here for a max speed Adamant Scizor. And yeah, this is also a really good response for Scizor, just because it resists the dual stabs and doesn't really like being in versus this thing. So next mon is Spec Swallow, pretty standard. Boom Burst, Heat Wave, Air Slash for Virizion, and U-turn. His only steel or normal resist is the Scizor, and obviously we have Heat Wave for that. So looking very nice. I originally had a Jolteon in this slot because I wanted something for dealing with Rotom, but was talking with my buddy Bronson, and he suggested I put this on instead just because it did so much damage to his team. And that kind of leaves without a Rotom response, but it's okay. Swallow can put in work on its own. And just enough speed on this thing to outspeed Gengar, so that's good to know. We have a bulky Cloyster set here. I shared Icicle Spear, Liquidation, and Spikes. This is mainly here for dealing with D-Knight that gets out of control. We do not die to a +1 Adamant Supersonic Sky Strike with this set. We live, does 99.6% max. And then with this 160 attack investment, we can guaranteed kill with Ice Shard if rocks are up, and we easily kill with Icicle Spear if he is at full HP and he still has his multi-scale. So a few options for handling that there. This might also be my way for beating Piloswine, just because I don't really have another answer for it. And at least I can hit it with Liquidation. It doesn't hit super hard versus like a max HP Piloswine, but it should do like 40% or so. And then I just put Spike on this last slot, just because my general strategy in this game is going to be to wear things down with Hazards and Rocky Helmet and stuff, and Toxic, and get everything to the point where I can win with my Zygarde. So that's the plan. Next up, we do have Akaberry Scizor, and Akaberry is dual functioning this week. It's potentially useful for surviving HP fires from just various different Pokemon like Gengar or potentially Rotom or Umbreon or whatever. And it also gives me the option to run Natural Gift to hit his Scizor. So I've used this before. I used this in TTM March Madness versus the Verd. He had a Mega Scizor, and I was able to pop him with a Akaberry Scizor, which was really clutch. And this is also a really important mon because this allows me to 2-hit KO Umbreon, which is otherwise a very annoying Pokemon. So we have enough attack investment on this thing to take that on. We can two-shot a fully physically defensive Umbreon after leftovers with this set. And then Bullet Punch is just useful for Florges, Gengar, etc. Put enough speed on here to outspeed most Rotoms, because if he's 0 speed Rotom, he'll be like 208. So yeah, I really want to be able to outspeed that thing if possible, just because like my team is so weak to it, so any opportunity I have to potentially outspeed it and get damage off is going to be really crucial. Next up, we've got a Rocks Nihilego. Rocks Toxic, HP Fire, Power Gem. He doesn't really have many good Rock Resist on his team, period. And then HP Fire plus Babiri Berry allows us to lure in the Scizor, which is otherwise a very annoying Pokemon. And then we put enough defense enough defense investment into this thing that we can survive a +6 extreme speed from Linoone. I'm hoping that Scizor can also live and go for a Bug Bite versus it, but I didn't actually calc to see. I have to kind of rely on Bug Bite and then potentially Bullet Punch afterwards. But I think like 2 extreme speeds should take out Scizor, so I probably won't get the opportunity for the Bullet Punch. But you know, that is what it is. But yeah, otherwise just enough speed on here for Victini and stuff. Main objective is to get up Rocks, because that's extremely crucial in this matchup for Victini, Dragonite, etc. And last but not least, sort of a standard-looking Zygarde set. D-Dance, Thousand Arrows, Outrage, Superpower. Superpower is kind of my best way to hit both Umbreon and Piloswine for a decent bit of damage. And then we put enough HP on this thing so that I could live the combination of Ice Shard from Piloswine, get the defense drop from Superpower, and then be able to survive an E-Speed from a non-banded Linoone. So that's kind of a very strange calc, but that's what we did. Speed allows us to outspeed D-Knight and a max speed timid Selgor. And Dragonium is just really nice because it allows us to break through some of his annoying stuff. Like, we can use it for Piloswine or Umbreon if we need. We can also use it for Virizion, which I guess is 1,000 Arrows resist, although not really. 1,000 Arrows already kills a Selgor at +1 after a layer of rocks and a spike. Yeah, it's also good for hitting the thing, what's it called? Dragonite, without locking ourselves into Outrage. So that's the full team. And with that said, let's now switch on over to the battle. And he has brought his Dragonite, Umbreon, Victini, Scizor, Gengar, and Rotom. So the main thing I'm surprised not to see is the Piloswine, just because he could have run that pretty bulky to deal with Zygarde and then also run Ice Shard to a KO. So a little surprised not to see that. It's also his Rocker. And Rocks are pretty decent versus the team that I brought. I've got 3 things that are weak to it. And it's also just generally nice for wearing down Scizor and things like that. But otherwise, no major surprises. Umbreon is probably his physically defensive Mon of choice. Victini, probably Scarf, just because it's one of the best Victini sets and it allows him to outspeed a +1 Zygarde. Gengar is just scary in general. I don't really have a Ghost Resist. And yeah, like nothing else major in terms of surprises here. So in terms of lead, I do just want to lead with Nihilego because, you know, getting up Rocks potentially as soon as possible is early, and if he wants to lead with his Scizor to get up his Mega Evolution as soon as possible, we can potentially catch that thing with the HP Fire, which would not be too bad at all. So we'll see how this plays out, and he leads with his Dragonite as I lead with Nihilego. Now, I'm not expecting him to set up turn 1, but, you know, I don't want to let Dragonite just kind of mess around for free, so I decided to go for the Power Gem as he just goes straight for Outrage and takes me out turn 1. So I don't really regret this. Like, I kind of wish I clicked Rocks just because if he was going to click Outrage, I could go into Cloyster. I could take less than 50% from Adamant Outrage, assuming he's not choice locked. If he's banded, I would take probably like 70 or so. But, I mean, Cloyster's kind of only here for Dragonite. So I could have done that and then Revenge killed because he's obviously locked into Outrage and can't switch out. So like in retrospect, getting the damage wasn't super important, but in case he did set up somehow, I didn't want to like let him do that and keep his multi-scale intact. So like, was it the right play? Like, not sure, hard to say. But in any case, I can just go now Heart Cloyster, and assuming he's not Yachi Berry, Ice Shard easily takes him out, and that's exactly what happens. And now he goes Rotom. And so, like I was explaining my team builder, without something like Jolteon or Whimsicott, I pretty much have no answers for Rotom, which is really bad. And so this Cloyster sort of served his life, and I've got like a little bit of a chance to survive a Volt Switch from an uninvested Rotom. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to stay in here and click spikes and see what happens. And he goes for HP Ice. So I guess he was expecting my Zygarde switch in, which, you know, fair enough. Like, I would never really switch in Zygarde on a Rotom for fear of the Will-O-Wisp. But, you know, I could understand how potentially that could happen with some players. So, again, I don't have any other play besides click Spike. And so, I think on this next turn, I click Icicle Spear, and he goes for a Hidden Power again. And there's two things going on here. First, the Hidden Power is doing like 9.3%, which reveals that this is probably a modest Rotom, or it's at least max special attack. So if it's like max special attack, timid, with no investment in HP or defense, then this Icicle Spear should do like 26% or so. If he is invested in HP, like he's max HP with you know, a lot of special attack investment, then he should be taking like 21% from this from the Icicle Spear. So he does take about 21%. So he's looking like he's max HP, max special attack. So that's important to know because unless he puts just a little bit of speed on his Rotom, my Scizor is going to outspeed. And Bug Bite actually almost 2-hit KOs a full HP Rotom with no defense investment. So that might be my only way of really threatening him, which is good to know. But yeah, he hasn't gone for an electric move yet. That's kind of the weirdest thing. So I don't know what his set is if he doesn't have a Volt Switch or Thunderbolt. But I don't really have anything else to do here. I guess I could have gone like Scizor, but I don't want to get burned, you know, in case he's got Wisp. So I'm just gonna keep on like just clicking buttons until he eventually decides to kill me. I click spikes again as he shows Defog. He's gonna go for another HP Ice as I spike again, and I'll just go to normal for these few turns here because now he's gonna Defog, and I think I spike again. You know, basically, you know, I just want to try and get up some hazard since I couldn't get up rocks. But you know, he seems like he's gonna prevent me from doing that. And so on this turn, I am expecting the Defog, so I am just gonna go into Swellow. And was this a risky play? Yes, but like, it seems pretty sure at this point that he does not have an electric move. And so if he goes for HP Ice, that sucks. But my Swellow should be able to live one. And then now I'm in a position to really threaten his team. And so, even if he wants to go into Scizor, like a max HP Scizor takes like 35% from this Boon Burst, so he'll be kind of forced to roost. And I can potentially take advantage of that by going into my Entei or my own Scizor. And almost anything else gets 2-hit KO'd. Like a physically defensive Umbreon will get 2-hit KO'd. Victini, it doesn't get 2-hit KO, but it takes about 70 min. And Gengar takes like 94% min. So I guess it doesn't literally OHKO everything, but it practically does, which is really nice. And so he's going to choose to go on into his Umbreon, and it takes 42. And so this means that he does have some Spadef investment, which is annoying for me. But it also means then that this is probably not his Zygarde counter. Like, it can sort of check it just based on its natural bulk. But it's maybe indicating that the Scizor is a little bit more physically defensive. Because then that could be his like #1 check to Zygarde, because he did not bring a ground resist, and that's like my theme of my season is like nobody brings ground resists apparently, versus Zygarde, and like maybe it's a case of like, well, why do you bother? Like, the thing is a monster, like you know, we have to sort of check it offensively, which, you know, that's also worked for most of my opponents this season. But man, like, some of these people just are not respecting Zygarde. At least he's got a likely Scarf Victini. Like, some people didn't even bring Scarfer versus my team. It's like, how can you do that? But I digress. So he can't really do much to me. Like, I guess I can go for Foul Play, but I'm gonna try and punish his Wish here just by going for another Boom Burst. And then if he wants to follow up with a Protect, he can do that. If he wants to patch the Wish into Scizor, I don't want him to basically be getting in for free. So Entei seems like a pretty reasonable play for me here. So I'm going to make the switch out here as he's at a pretty low amount of HP. Excuse me. And then he is going to go for the Protect like we expected. So he does survive that. And normally, like, Umbreon pretty safely beats Entei. But because I have Toxic and Rest, I should be able to beat this in theory. And he's shown Wish Protect. He probably has Foul Play. Hopefully he doesn't have Heal Bell in the last slot, otherwise I'm going to have some major problems versus this thing. But I am going to click Toxic as he, you know, smartly scouts for whatever move I want to go for, and he goes for Protect. And I'm going to be able to follow it up with the Toxic, and I do land on this guy. And he is going to end up clicking the Foul Play. So, doesn't do a ton of damage to me. Getting some Rocky Helmet damage on that is really nice. And now I can go ahead and click Rest as he brings in his Victini. And so, this is an interesting play. Like, Victini doesn't really beat Entei. I mean, maybe it beats normal Entei sets. It doesn't beat my Entei set. So, given the benefit of the doubt, he doesn't necessarily know that I'm a bulky Entei with Rest Talk. But, you know, this is nice for me because if he wants to go for, I don't know, Bolt Strike or U-Turn or whatever, I should be able to live it comfortably. If he wants to go for one of his Psychic or, you know, special type moves like Psychic, I should be able to survive that unless he specs. You know, like survive as in not get 3-hit KO'd. So that's really nice. And as you're going to see, he does go for the Psychic. It does about 30%. So again, you know, being able to not get 3-hit KO'd, which is really great. I do get off a Sacred Fire here, which gets off 18% damage. That's really nice. You know, without the rocks, every little bit of chip damage on the Victini would be really nice. I draw a Rest here, which is, you know, quite a bit unfortunate. And I don't have an answer to this Rotom, even though it doesn't seem to be packing the electric coverage. But I am just going to sack my Cloyster to it. And then I'm going to go into Swellow once again. And so, he went into Umbreon last time. Umbreon, you can't really see because I don't have the tooltips on to be shown on the OBS. But it's at 76% and it's Toxic. So, it is easily 2-hit KO'd by Boom Burst. I wouldn't think he wants to sack it here, so I'm expecting the play into Scizor. So I click Heat Wave, but he does once again go Umbreon. So, unfortunate for me that I didn't get that prediction right. But Umbreon is just not a mon that I'm particularly worried about. So I am going to switch excuse me, into my Entei, because Umbreon does give me, it potentially gives me a turn to wake up and then click Rest, because I have wasted 2 turns of Sleep Talk. But I am expecting him to make a double here. Potentially into Rotom. That's the #1 thing that I'm expecting. And so going into Swellow seems like my best way to punish a play into Rotom. And I think pretty sure that's what I do here. I don't think I click Rest. Yeah, I do double, bringing in my Swellow. And instead of going Rotom, he does go Gengar. So, you know, this could potentially be a Scarf Gengar. A Sludge Wave from a Scarf Gengar does, I think, like 90% to me or so. So that would be bad, but more likely he is just like a Life Orb set or something like that. So this works out for me. I get the option to just click Boom Burst for free. If he wants to go Scizor, you know, not fantastic, but he'll be forced to Roost, and then I can go into Entei and I can get my Rest that way. Or I can go into Sizz and potentially go for Natural Gift Fire versus him. So he does just now go on into his Umbreon, and I do take that thing out. Probably the right play actually was to go for another Heat Wave. How much did Heat Wave do before? 18%? Yeah, so Heat Wave would have 2-hit KO'd the Umbreon. So I probably should have clicked it anyway, just in case. But the Boom Burst, I think it forces in the Scizor here. Which could be good for me just because I have some better ways of dealing with Scizor than I do dealing with Rotom or Victini. And those mons will be lured in by Heat Wave. So, like, Boom Burst is fine play. Could have gone for Heat Wave, but I think, you know, after getting this kill on the Umbreon, it's better to have Boom Burst be my move that I'm locked into. But anyway, let's continue to move on, and he does go into his Scizor here, and I'm going to go into my Scizor. I don't want to go Entei because I'm pretty low, and I want to save my Rocky Helmet for a potential U-turn from Victini, just because, again, any little bit of chip damage is nice. And he goes for Hidden Power Ice, so this is definitely the Zygarde check. This is like a fully Fizz Def or like a mostly Fizz Def Scizor. And I don't have any damage on this thing, and this is where not having hazards is really annoying, because unless I find a way to get damage on this thing, I'm going to have a hard time sweeping with my Zygarde. And if I can't sweep with my Zygarde, I'm going to have a hard time winning this game. But, you know, I could buzz out my Natural Gift here, but if he's HP Ice, he's not going to have a way to beat my Scizor. And so he's not going to want to stay in. Like, he could go for knockoff or something, but like knockoff is sort of a fool's errand. Like, he's never going to win that 1v1 versus me. Or like, I guess neither of us are going to beat each other 1v1. And so, you know, he's got Rotom, which is typically a pretty good switch into Scizor. And so anticipating that, I am just going to go for the Bug Bite. And he does bring it in, and that's perfect for me because I can get off some really nice damage. Does 46%. So it's not quite a 2-hit KO from the range of HP that Rotom was at, which was full, I guess, or like 98%. You know, Closter wasn't able to really do his job there. But I digress. We go for another 2 Bug Bites, and I know that, you know, most likely if he has a Will-O-Wisp, that we should be able to take him out with a second Bug Bite even after the recovery. And he doesn't even go for the Bug Bite, he goes for the Hydro Pump. Or he doesn't go for the Will-O-Wisp, he goes for the Hydro Pump. So anyway, so he goes into Victini here, and like in retrospect, I think I probably should have just clicked Bullet Punch here just to try and get a little bit of damage. I collect Bug Bite in case he wanted to go into, like, in case he wanted to U-turn. But I think even if he U-turned, that Bullet Punch was probably the better play. Just because Bug Bite's going to do practically 0 damage to both Gengar and Scizor. And like having the little bit of chip damage on this Victini would have been really nice, just because it actually would have put it in range of 1,000 arrows from an unboosted Zygarde. Because I don't have like a max attack adamant, I only have like 148 attack adamant on my Zygarde. So like I didn't know that at the time. I should have looked it up. But in any case, I do just end up stacking this thing. And I guess I could have gone into I could have sacked Entei instead, but Entei still has usefulness. I can rest up on the Scizor and get it back up to HP. Or after I sack my my own Scizor, I can go into Entei on this Victini and click rest if I choose. So I do just sack it here, you know, leaving a little bit of damage on the table. So maybe that was a mistake. But moving on, we do go into Entei, and like I explained, I should be able to rest here, and I'm just hoping I get like a couple of non-crappy rest talk turns. And I do kind of hope that this is like a non-attack boosting Gengar, like without Life Orb or Choice Specs, just because it's really spooky if it's got a boosting item. And he is going to go for Shadow Ball and reveal the Life Orb, so that's exactly what I thought would happen, you know, exactly what I feared. I go for Sleep Talk and I draw a Rest, which really sucks. I'm going to stay in just because I don't have anything to switch into this thing. At least when it dies, I can go into Swellow and threaten it that way. But he goes for Icy Wind, anticipating maybe my switch into Swellow. Or Zygarde. I don't know why I would switch a Zygarde in on a Gengar that shows Life Orb. Of course, it's going to be packing Icy Wind. But, you know, that kind of works out for me. It gives me an opportunity to roll a Rest Talk. But as you're going to see, we roll into Toxic, which is not great. Like, I was originally thinking of putting Stone Edge on instead of Toxic. But, you know, Toxic did make sense because that allowed me to 1v1 Umbreon, Florges, a bunch of other sort of annoying stuff on his team. So I don't regret it. But it's unfortunately not working out for me because it only gives me 1 in 3 chance to getting any damage on this Gengar. But at this point, like, if he just kills my Gengar for free, or not my Gengar, if he kills my Entei with Gengar for free, I'm in a really, really bad spot. So I feel like I have to make a play here and anticipate his Shadow Ball. And in doing that, I'm going to go into my Swellow because obviously I am immune. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And either I get really nice damage off on this Gengar and kill it, or he switches in his Scizor and I get a couple of Boom Bursts off, probably 2 Boom Bursts. And then I can go from there. And his choice is going to be to sack his Gengar. So really nice to have that threat out of the way. But now he can go into his Victini. And so we have to kind of figure out what we want to do here. Swellow, I think, might be my best way to get damage onto Scizor. I guess Entei, maybe I should have kept Entei here. Like, let him kill my Swellow. And then I can go into Entei. And Entei is at 40%. Yeah, that was probably the play. Entei's at like 41%. He could go for pretty much any move here. Psychic, Blue Flare, whatever. And then my Entei can come in and it can heal. And as long as I can get a Toxic onto this Victini, I should be able to beat it 1v1. So that, in retrospect, that was probably the correct play, but I decided to preserve my Swellow and sack my Entei. You know, again, thinking, oh, maybe what if he wants to go for a U-turn or something. At this point, it's not even clear that he has U-turn. So that's a major bummer for me. So I do let the Entei go down, and that probably was not great. But now, yeah, so now I put myself into a tricky position, because I can go Swellow here, and I can live one Psychic, but I can't kill it in return with Boom Burst. If I go Zygarde, he's definitely going to switch into Scizor, and I can't beat Scizor right now because I don't have enough damage on it. I need to get it to like 45-50%, or like 40-45% in order to kill it with either Thousand Arrows or Z Outrage. I'm not actually sure which does more damage. I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, so basically I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way for me to get damage on Scizor. And I determined that the best way to do that is to go into Zygarde and then double into Swellow on his Scizor switch in. The only problem with that plan is that, again, like, let's suppose that we get into that scenario of Swellow versus Scizor. I click Heat Wave. He gets off one Bullet Punch on my Swellow easily, doing like 70% damage to me. And then he comes in with his Victini, clicks Icy Wind 3 times, and wins the game. And again, the reason that he's able to do that is because my Zygarde cannot, or it's likely not to one-shot this Victini with 1,000 Arrows at this range of HP. This is where the Bullet Punch damage would have been extremely nice. But yeah, so if I kill the Scizor with Heat Wave, he comes in with Victini, kills with Icy Wind on my Swellow, and then kills Zygarde in 2 hits with Icy Wind. So that's pretty much, you know, kind of how that game is going to play out. And like we can kind of see, that almost takes place here. Like I go into the Zygarde, and he does double into, or goes into his Scizor as I double into Swellow. And I'm looking here, and I'm like, crap. Well, so I don't have a path to victory if I click Heat Wave here. And I don't even really have a path to victory if I go for Boom Burst and he switches into Victini, because Victini should survive a Specs Boom Burst from full, and then he can revenge me with Icy Wind, and then it's the same thing. The Icy Wind 2-hit KOs my Zygarde. I cannot Oko Victini with Icy Wind, with 1,000 Arrows. So I think it's pretty much checkmate at this point. You know, you could say that this play here is a 50-50, like that determines the game, but I don't think that's true. Just because, like I said, I don't think I have a path to victory at this point. I should have preserved Entei, and then I would have had a chance to win this game. But as it is, I'm going to click Boom Burst, because again, it doesn't really matter what happens here. And he goes for the Bullet Punch, staying in. So, you know, I got that play wrong, but as I just explained, I don't think it really makes any difference. He'll be able to take me out here. And, yeah, he'll be able to two-shot my Zygarde with Hidden Power Ice. I was thinking about packing Yachi Berry. Would Yachi Berry have saved the game for me here? It's a good question. But he is at 64% HP. Let's suppose... No, it wouldn't have mattered. Because I would have taken about 28% from the first HP Ice, then like 56 from the second HP Ice, and that puts me easily in range of Bullet Punch. So it wouldn't have even mattered if I was Yachi Berry. But he is going to be able to take me out. After I go for Devastating Drake. If I had gotten a crit on the Devastating Drake, it still wouldn't have mattered. Because then he could just revenge me with his Victini, but at least it would have been a 1-0 instead of a 2-0. But he does take me out, and it's going to be a 2-0 victory for my opponent, Redikai. So, GG to him. Definitely bummed about a few of the plays that I made there. Like, not clicking Rocks turn 1, I think, you know, that ended up being the wrong call. Even though, like, it was sort of a moot point. Like, he was going to come in with Rotom and immediately defog anyway. But, you know, I think that was going to be the better play there in the long run. Because, again, I survive a thing from Dragonite. I survive a +1 Supersonic Sky Strike. So I could have then, if, you know, suppose he Dragon Dances again with his D-Knight as I click Power Gem on the second turn. That takes me out, and then he's in range of Ice Shard. You know, 2+2 Extreme Speed won't do hardly anything to Cloyster. He would be forced to do that, go for the Supersonic Sky Strike. But let's suppose that he goes for +1 and then goes for EQ versus my Nihilego, so he's still at full HP. I bring him my Cloyster, it's guaranteed to live, Adamant Supersonic Sky Strike, and then I can kill it with Icicle Spear. So that would have been the correct sequence of plays there. But yeah, that wasn't the big problem. The bigger problem was, I should have gotten damage on Victini just so I had something on it, so I could potentially have been in a situation where Zygarde could win in the late game. I could have killed that Scizor, and then Victini has to 2-shot Zygarde with Icy Wind, and then I would have actually been able to 1-shot with 1,000 Arrows from my set. So that was a little bit of a misplay, but in the end, I think sacking Entei was the #1 mistake that was made, because Entei should, in theory, be able to beat the last 2 Mons on his team. Even if I get crappy Rest Talk turns, the whole rest of the game, I would eventually get a Toxic on his Victini and be able to wear it down. I guess it would just depend on crits and Spadef drops and things like that, but in a perfect world, Entei beats both of those Mons, so sacking that was a choke. But Redikai played well. I don't want to downplay any of his efforts here. The Scizor set was really nice. It it soloed Zygarde, and sniping off my Rocker was really nice for him early because it allowed him to play really aggressively with his Victini. I think Victini got kills on Scizor and Zygarde, and I think that's it this game. No, it also got a kill on Entei, so it got 3 kills. So again, just shows how good Victini is if it's left unchecked, which I kind of did. So anyway, that's actually going to wrap up our UBC season. We did have a Week 10 match scheduled, but our opponent is going to forfeit that match due to some circumstances in real life. So I'm not going to speak anymore on that for respect for him. And yeah, unfortunately, we're going to end up with a 4-6 season. After getting a win from that forfeit victory in the week that follows this. So it's my first losing season in a while in any league. But, I'm pretty happy that with the way we played the last 6 weeks or so. Once we made the changes to the team, we had a really close match versus Ben, and then we went on a 3-game winning streak. Beating some good opponents. We were able to beat Ice Demon Gray. We were able to beat Youngster Bill. We were able to beat Scoot. So all things being said, it was a good season. After a few rough showings to start the season, and yeah, we'll have to see what happens next season. I don't know when it's starting. My schedule is filling up with a couple leagues that I'll be happy to announce very soon. And so there's definitely going to be some action on the channel in this spring and in this summer that you guys can look forward to. But I'll just leave it at that. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this season. If you want to remain a lifelong Baltimore Oriolus fan, I hope you sub to the channel and check out all of my other gaming and Pokemon content. So until the next time, I will see you guys later.